Today I'll be talking to you about environmental impact, poverty or affluence, how rich impacts the environment as opposed to how poor impacts the environment. No matter where we are in the world, we have an effect on the planet. Humans take resources from the earth to survive. Although it is increasing our life expectancy, it is decreasing the earth's. Here we have a picture of Earth in 1978 and in 2012. Isn't it scary how detrimental the human race can be in just 34 years? Obviously, the main means to the Earth's demise is overpopulation, with 7 billion now and an expected extra 2 billion by the year 2040. But it's not the only reason. Etymologist Paul Ehrlich, physicist John Holdren, and environmentalist and biologist Barry Commoner were debating about what had made the greatest contribution to humanity's impact on the environment. The debate led to the creation of what is now known as the IPAT formula. This states that humans' impact on the environment is the product of population, affluence, and the impact of technology, or I equals PAT. An increase in just one of these parameters therefore increases our environmental impact. Here is a short video explaining IPAT or IPAT.
Human impact, the IPAT equation. What is the IPAT equation? What are the assumptions within it? And what opportunities to reduce impact does it reveal? These are the questions that we'll be looking at in this video. In the early 1970s, scientists in the United States were attempting to calculate the impact of humans on the environment. One of the methods proposed by Ehrlich and Holdren is called the IPAT equation. In this equation, the environmental impact was proposed to be a product of the population, the affluence of the population, and the technology. Let's look more closely at this model. The mental model presumes that each person represents a consumer of economic goods and services. The affluence term represents the economic goods and services that are able to be consumed per person. The technology term represents the pollutants emitted per economic good or service consumed. One line of reasoning that arose from the IPAT equation was that countries of large populations, such as China and India, who together comprise more than a third of the world's people, are the countries with largest negative impact. However, the affluence term has proved to be far more important. For example, wealthier countries have 5 times the ecological footprint than developing countries have. A simplified way of strategizing to reduce the impact would be to manipulate the terms on the right-hand side of the equation. However, in some cases, there are serious ethical considerations in doing this. For example, it is clear that reducing the population would decrease the impact. But manipulating individuals' reproductive rights or deciding to end the lives of people are serious moral infractions. As a technologist, the term in the IPAT equation that makes most sense as an intervention point is the technology term. Within the technology term, we have the opportunity of developing products and services that have a much reduced impact throughout the life cycle. This is encouraging, but gains in efficiency of a particular process are mathematically bound by the laws of thermodynamics. That is, you can't get a process that is more than 100% energy efficient, so the impact per technology term has limits within a particular technology. What else can be done? One way to create more options for high-impact interventions is to expand the boundaries of the problem. In this image, we use the notation of causal loop diagrams to show how the IPAT variables are influenced by a number of other variables. Each arrow shows a causal connection. For example, sustainable development in a society is correlated with greater gender equity, which leads to lower birth rates and reduced population. While technology efficiency is limited by the laws of thermodynamics, things like gender equity, literacy, art, ethics, spirituality are not mathematically limited. These areas of intervention do not necessarily require new investments of energy or materials, but do require an attention to the human influences of the system behavior. One of the dangers of viewing the system this way is in assuming that people are objects that can be manipulated to produce a desired sustainable effect. In this scenario, the designer is using people to achieve an outcome. An alternative is to create partnerships where people can work together to choose their shared destiny. Participatory action methods of design are in the spirit of creating shared outcomes through individually and collectively chosen actions. The IPAT equation is a simple way of conceptualizing the environmental impact of a human population and its lifestyle. It represents humans as consumers whose impact is a product of their affluence and the pollution associated with the technology to support their consumption. The IPAT reveals that opportunities to reduce impact come from both technology and many other interventions that influence population, affluence, and technology. These interventions call for participatory action towards shared aspirations.
In the IPAT equation, we see that affluence is a major factor. The more money you have, the more resources you require, the more waste you have, and the bigger your carbon footprint, as we just saw in the video. You would think China's ecological footprint would be similar to, if not more than America's, with all the factories and development. But as we saw then, America's footprint is a whopping 5 times bigger. After looking at this information, you're probably thinking that it is only developed countries that are doing the damage. This is wrong. Undeveloped countries lack the resources to recycle, use energy efficient globes, and many other things that we take for granted in developed countries. My younger brother went on an exchange to Jordan last year, and the thing that shocked him was the amount of rubbish on the ground. We hear of less developed countries not littering because everything counts. Some of the highest rubbish litter rates come from developing countries because they lack the resources and understanding to be more sustainable. In sub-Saharan African countries, women provide 60 to 80% of labour for food production, but due to the lack of gender equality, women don't get the access to the same resources or information that men do. A few weeks ago we talked about the importance of crop rotation. If the same seed is planted in the same area over and over, the soil loses its nutrients and the seed quality decreases. Obviously this leads to an inability to sell, which causes poverty and malnourishment. This moves third world countries further and further behind the 8 ball and makes it harder to make a change to be more sustainable towards the environment. You can improve quality of life on Earth by minimising population growth. Obviously, we are taking too many resources from the Earth too quickly. Malnourishment is a lack of food. Initial thought, eat more food. This is wrong. Remember how planting the same kind of seed over and over again diminishes the soil's nutrients? It's the same in animals. There is a stereotype that a sheep just needs to eat grass to be fat and happy. Wrong. If a sheep just eats grass, it becomes malnourished. It needs seed and also hay for roughage to survive. Same as humans. Can you imagine just eating grain every meal? In poor countries, they think producing more and eating more grain will cure malnutrition. Although the lack of food was no longer a problem and people felt full, malnourishment was still present because of a decrease in food diversity. As I said before, quality not quantity. This all comes back to gender equality. If we educate women about quality not quantity when it comes to population, they will be able to feed their small family with the right nutrients so they live happier and healthier lives. In turn, the earth will be healthier too because there will be less of a need to steal from the earth, instead grow food and take it when it's ready. Obviously, we are starting to realize that countries affected by poverty are affecting the environment. Who is rich and who is poor? In 1995, 9.2% of Australian population earned less than the average income per week, around $253. If there was no alteration to living standards between 1995 and 2012, there would only be a 3.3% of the population in Australia below the weekly income median. If we take changes in living standards into account, which means the weekly income median has jumped from $253 a week to $395 a week, the population under the threshold has jumped from 3.3 all the way up to 12%. Technically, poverty is slowly on the rise because of the economy climbing faster than our income. In this picture, high income is blue, upper middle green, lower middle purple, and low income red. Sorry about the blurriness. It is your opinion, but I personally don't think poverty is on the rise in Australia because comparing us with third world countries or even some developing countries, we are far better off. Over the past 20 years, I think affluent countries are having more of a negative effect on the planet. In saying this, our ability to become more sustainable over this time is a good sign that we are starting to look after the earth and lengthen its lifespan. Although countries affected by poverty do not have as big an ecological footprint as developed countries, their impact on the Earth's health is rising due to gender inequality, which is forcing overpopulation. The other factor is their lack of knowledge and resources, primarily when it comes to farming and pollution. My opinion, I think affluent countries are the main killer now, but if nothing is done to help develop poverty-stricken countries, they will take over as the destroyer. What's your opinion? Thank you for listening to this. I hope you got a bit out of it.